Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Interabang Author Chats. I'm Ishita Kent. I'm the marketing coordinator here, and I'm so excited for another wonderful chat with another incredible Desi Kidslit author. And I have the incredible Mitali Ruths with me and her book, Archie Celebrates Diwali. Mitali, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel so lucky to be among all of the amazing Desi writers who've had books come out this year. And I know that you at Interabang are putting together like a little Diwali book display, and I feel so lucky to be part of it, to be part of the growing shelf of Diwali books that are out there for kids and classrooms and families. It really is such a big honor.
Yes. So for our audience out there, why don't you tell us a little bit about Diwali and why it is such a big deal in Indian culture?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Diwali is like a uniting festival. It's maybe the biggest festival celebrated in India and now around the world. So over like a billion people in the world celebrate Diwali. And it's the one festival in India that unites the country. It's celebrated not just by Hindus, but by like Jains, Sikhs, Buddhists, so like 4 major religious groups, and everybody gets into it. It's a season, it's a spirit, it lasts 5 days, so it's like a week, and there are activities for each day, but there's one big major day. And I wanted to write a book about Diwali, not the way that it was celebrated in India, but an American celebration, like the way that my family would have celebrated it growing up in Texas, or the way we celebrate it now here in Canada, where it is an important holiday in my family home and in certain communities, but it can feel a little bit different to be celebrating such a big holiday in your own house, and then to have the world around you, like it not to be something that maybe other people see and recognize. But I think in the last 5 or 10 years, I've seen a lot of things in the mainstream about Diwali. Like, for example, I was so excited that the show Mira Royal Detective has this fantastic episode about Diwali and a really catchy song that I admit I'll hum along to sometimes. And then we all know that there's so many people that celebrate Diwali, like Kelly Kapoor in The Office in that famous episode, and then Mindy Kaling, of course. And then now we have Vice President Kamala Harris in the White House. So like they're presidents, prime ministers, people all around the world that celebrate Diwali.
Yeah.
And Diwali is like, what is Diwali? I've talked on and on about Diwali, but I haven't told you what it's about. So Diwali is the festival of lights from South Asia. And there are a lot of stories about the origins of Diwali, or the stories behind Diwali. But the main one, like one of the major ones, is this Indian epic called the Ramayana. It's about Lord Ram and his wife Sita's return to their kingdom of Ayodhya after defeating this demon king named Ravana. And so it's a celebration of the triumph of good over evil, of light over darkness, and this return home, the celebration of community and homecoming, of light, of food, of renewal. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. And of course, you know, you grew up in Texas, which is where Interabang is. And now you're in Canada. How have you noticed any differences in the community celebrating Diwali between how it is in Texas and how it is in Canada? Or do you think it's pretty similar?
I think it's taken me a while to find my community, because it is a holiday that requires a community to sell it. So when I lived at home, I had my parents and aunties and everybody else to help guide the traditions. But here, with my family and kids, I get to take some of those traditions, try to make them my own, and connect with other people here in a new city, to figure out ways that we can all celebrate together. But I think it's also been interesting because, and one of the motivations for writing this book too is, my husband is white and I am of West Bengali heritage. And so our kids are both South Asian and white. And I wanted there to be a book that, can help them connect with our culture and their South Asian roots. And so, and offer a way for them to explain and celebrate it with their friends. I noticed that there was a gap in this kind of book. And so that's kind of really what motivated me to write it and to share it. As when I was trying to find books to talk about Diwali to them, missing my parents, missing the community when I was just a young mother here in Montreal, I started thinking about what kind of stories I could create that would help share that.
And now this is your debut book. Were you always kind of a storyteller at heart, or is this just kind of I need to write the story that I can't find in the world?
I think I've always been a storyteller. I mean, sometimes it would get me in trouble when I was younger because I think storytellers, sometimes we don't know when to stop. So, but I've always liked reading, and I've kept journals and notebooks filled with ideas or interesting words. Like I collected words, not just from English, but from a variety of other languages that I really liked. And then I've been writing, on and off throughout. I write, but for a while I didn't write anything long, like so many of us are writers, but we write short form. Like I wrote a lot of emails, I wrote down notes or recipes or things in the calendar, just short little things. And then, I had a number of my career's taken a lot of twists and turns. So I think it was actually having children, becoming a mother, that really made me think about turning to writing again. It's something that I always wanted to do, but they helped me rediscover it, partly because kids themselves are so creative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've heard a lot of people say like kids are what made me want to write again, and kids are what, inspired my writing. So that's definitely something that I've heard from a lot of people. And of course, communities are such a big part of, South Asian South Asian culture is all about the family and the community and the neighbors and everybody around you. So, it makes sense that you kind of want to build that into your own world by writing these stories down for them.
Yeah, and I think the celebration of Diwali, what I feel very happy about is it's now as part of the diaspora, it's becoming a bigger celebration, not just part of the South Asian community, but inviting others to celebrate it too, because it is such a wonderful cultural, spiritual holiday. And I think even now, like living through this ongoing, seemingly never-ending pandemic, as the days get shorter here in the North too, it's nice to have these reminders that while there is darkness, and it seems like never-ending darkness, there is so much light out in the world, And I think a holiday that celebrates that offers this kind of reminder for food and home and comfort and the familiar. I mean, I think, it's kind of a fun way, like Diwali is a fun way to introduce some of the aspects of South Asian culture, some of the best parts of it to other people. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's, I mean, I remember growing up and Diwali was a huge deal, we would, I was in charge of arranging all of the candles in front of the house to be very, pretty and precise, that we lit every night for Diwali. My family would have their brothers and sisters over for dinner. We were part of the, big Indian association in Atlanta that would throw Diwali shows, and we would all light sparklers together and all of that sort of fun stuff. What are some of the traditions of Diwali that you loved growing up that you knew that you had to incorporate into Archie Celebrates Diwali?
So for me, I'm Bengali, and for other Bengalis who know, like the big celebration for Bengalis is Durga Puja, that honors the goddess Durga, who is really fierce. She has like 10 arms. She rides this lion into battle with demons. And then around the celebration of Diwali, following that, there's another goddess, Kali, the Kali Puja, that is the big celebration for Bengalis. So my parents traditionally grew up celebrating that, but around the time, like late elementary school, early high school, as we started making these connections, Diwali was a way actually for all the different Indian associations and all the other Indian communities in Houston to come together. So for me, like my sister and I would call it Bindi season. It would start with Navratri. There was a big Dandiya Garba Ras at the George R. Brown Convention Center. We would drive to Hillcroft, which is this big street that's kind of like a little India in Houston. My mom would insist on us getting like all of these clothes. And it was just like, I would try to find the kind that you could repurpose, like a very Western style lehenga, which was rare back then, but is more common now. And, you know, choosing the bindis, choosing the bangles, choosing all the accessories, and like having that outfit like in the back of the car. It would be a whole day, like just eating and shopping. And then for I mean, this is going to reveal my age, but so we would sit down also and write on these aerograms, which are these flat, open pieces of paper that actually fold into an envelope, and you tape the sides. So it's like a long, flat piece of paper. And it was so that you wouldn't have very much weight for the postage. And so we would write out these letters to mail to our relatives in India. And so then around that time, we would also get a lot of these different aerograms. And I remember the feeling of like opening it very carefully. And then this is also going to two other like things that will reveal my age is we would go to the Indian grocery store, which is also where you would get Indian movie DVDs. And so then my sister and I would look through, and I was really obsessed with Shah Rukh Khan and Hrithik Roshan. So I'd find, even if it was a movie that I'd seen so many times before, we would find those movies. And because you needed to have the good selection, because while the aunties and uncles were partying downstairs, all the kids would be upstairs watching a movie, playing games, doing something else at the party. And then the other thing is my dad would have us look through the calling cards, because you would need these calling cards to call India. I mean, and because of the dial tones, like, you know, they're spread through tones, my dad would ask us to find calling cards that didn't have too many of the same digits next to each other. So the tones would be very different and you wouldn't misdial. So I remember like spending time like getting good calling card numbers that would be easy to dial. Like, and you know, that kind of takes me back. And then of course, my mom was always a very tidy housekeeper, but it was a little extra. This is where like you got to the corners, where the toothbrushes came out. We were like really, really cleaning. Usually this was my opportunity to look through the closet and kind of tidy up my room. That was like the little spot that I was responsible for. And then it was really just about kind of like Archie, the big party. Usually we were not the hosts, which took the pressure off. But my mom would be cooking, making something to take to this potluck style party. And then we would go to one of my auntie's house and people would be there and there'd be karaoke and dancing and some kind of pujo or celebration. And it was just, I remember it being fun and lively and being able to see everybody just feel happy. And then in the backyard, there'd be some, you know, maybe unauthorized fireworks, some sparklers, you know.
What illegal fireworks? We definitely didn't set off illegal fireworks during Diwali. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no.
There was none of that. None of that. And then, so with Archie Celebrates Diwali, this is focused on the actual like big Diwali party day. So what are so tell us a little bit about Archie and her knowledge of Diwali and kind of how she celebrates it herself in the book.
Okay, so this is Archie, and you can tell from the cover, by the way, like I haven't mentioned it until now, but the beautiful illustrations in this book are by the amazing Parwinder Singh. He really brings this whole book to life, like his pictures, the colors, they reflect the vibrancy of the holiday. It's really, really, really spectacular. You can tell from the cover right away that this is not an ordinary day because Archie is dressed up in this lehenga. So she has like
Which
a very
I love
special
that
outfit.
lehenga, by the way. Do we have a real version of said lehenga? Because I would like it.
It's funny. My mom has been so sweet with this book coming out, and my dad too. Like my dad sent me a toran, which is like this garland that you can hang on doorways. Like traditionally they're made from real marigolds, but now you can find like plastic torans. And so like I have a plastic one for my doorway. And then my mom actually sent me like a pink long, salwar kameez, because she figured I would get more wear out of that than a lehenga. But isn't that like, it almost looks like it glows when you look at the book in person.
Yeah, very Diwali appropriate. Lots of sparkle.
This is very Diwali appropriate. So let me just show you in here. So since you asked about Archie, here she is. I'm not very good at holding this book. So this is Archie Celebrates Diwali. And here she says, I'm Archana. Everyone calls me Archie. And so Archie here, like we talked about, is preparing. She's here with her dog, and she is using these colored powders to make this rangoli on the floor. And Archie loves Diwali. This is actually her favorite holiday. And every year her family has a big Diwali party. And I picked the name Archana because it actually means one who worships, one who loves, which I felt was very appropriate for the celebration of Diwali, and it had a nice ring to it. And I love, my guilty pleasure for viewing is courtroom dramas. I think in a previous life, I would have used my storytelling instincts for being like a lawyer, because I just I'm there for it. And I loved The Good Wife. And there's the Emmy-winning actress Archana, or Archie Punjabi, who I love. So I was like, Archie, that's it. So
we do love Archie Punjabi in this house.
Oh, I knew I liked you, Ishita. I knew we had a connection right away.
She's so good.
She's so good. I remember the first time I saw her, I was like, who is this person? What else has she been in? And then I didn't realize that she'd been in Bend It Like Beckham.
Yes.
And then afterwards I went.
That was my introduction to her, was Bend It Like Beckham, which is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Mine too. And I've been trying to introduce it to my kids, but even remastered, its quality, it definitely looks like it's pre-2000.
I mean, yeah, but that's part of the charm of it, is it was kind of this low budget movie that exploded into nothing, like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's kind of that charm of it for me.
Oh, it launched so many people's career, that movie. It was amazing. And so like back to Archie, like she celebrates Diwali every year with her family. It's a big deal. This year she feels brave. So she invites some of her friends from school to her family's Diwali party. And then immediately on the day, she's very excited. And then on the day she's getting ready, everything is happening. And then just before the party starting, as it's all getting more real, she starts feeling worried about what they will think, and realizing that this will be the time for them to see Archie in a way that's different than how she presents herself at school. And, right away, like maybe I'll just share this first page with you. She says, this year, Archie invites a few friends from school to her family's big Diwali party. Virgil and Nora say they never heard of Diwali, and Paisley has trouble pronouncing it. Archie worries, what if they don't like her favorite holiday? Archie rakes the leaves, plugs in the lights, fixes a smudge in the rangoli, and lines up every diya on the walkway. Everything needs to be perfect, thinks Archie, straightening the garland of paper marigolds. So here she is, like decorating her house, with the lights. Mm-hmm. And she has these diyas on the walkway. And already she's like, well, her friends really haven't heard of Diwali. They're not really even able to pronounce it. Maybe this was not such a good idea, And so it all kind of, I've heard this joke that if you're like an author with anxiety, that all your characters will have anxiety. And I don't know if that's true, but so far, Ishita, I have to tell you, I think it checks out. And it's not something that I necessarily intend, but it is just something that's so natural. Like my natural state is being an anxious introvert. And so
Yeah.
it just like, she very much reflects some of, you know, what many people feel, which
Yeah, well,
is
I
like,
think like
realize, what will it be like when I'm seen for who I am? What will it be like when somebody sees not just me, but my family and the
mhm.
people that I love and that I care about? What will they think of them?
Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of like first gen and second gen Indian kids know the struggle of, where, you know, you're kind of navigating these two worlds of being, you know, Western and also being Indian or South Asian of some sort. And so, you know, they do often feel like two separate lives in a lot of ways, where you go to school, you're with your friends, you dress in Western style clothes, and you're talking about pop music and Backstreet Boys and how hot Brad Pitt is. And then you turn around and you go home and you're like, oh my God, Shah Rukh Khan. Have you seen the latest Shah Rukh Khan and Kajol flick? And then you're dressed in salwar kameez and lengas, and you're going to Navratri and going doing like pujas and stuff. And they just seem completely separate, and trying to marry the two worlds is super hard in a lot of ways.
It is, but I hope it's getting easier. I hope stories like this and just the way our world is evolving. I already notice it's different for my kids. First of all, they have such an opportunity to meet, connect, and see people in shows, on bookshelves, you know, that reflect the diaspora broadly. I mean, we have strides to make, but it is really amazing. Like what I would have given for the show Never Have I Ever on Netflix when I was a teen, or you know, to see Mindy Kaling being a boss lady on the morning show, or headlining her own show, The Mindy Project, or, you know, having Archie Punjabi show up, you know, in these characters, and to see, you know, Priyanka Chopra, you know, on the cover of various magazines. It just feels really amazing to see that just in the past decade, you know, all of these brown faces showing some Desi excellence all around.
Yes.
And it feels really amazing to bring a book out among this pantheon of creative people out there.
Yeah. I think no matter what, there's always going to be a teensy bit of anxiety trying to bring those two worlds, but having all of this awesome media now is going to be such a help in bridging that gap. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think the other thing too is that I want to emphasize is Diwali has many stories, and this is Archie's celebration of Diwali, Archie and her family and her community. And, you know, India is a very, very big country, and the diaspora is very broad. So there are different Diwali celebrations for each community, each region, each town, different celebrations in the African diaspora, in the Caribbean diaspora, in the North American diaspora, in the British diaspora. I mean, they all harken back to some of these similar themes of light triumphing over darkness and good triumphing over evil. And it's about family and community and being together, but everybody has their own traditions, you know, even the two of us, you know, we're both like Southern Desi, they're like slightly different flavors.
yeah, definitely. So, how do Archie's friends end up reacting to all of the Diwali traditions? Tell us a little bit more
So
about the story in general, without
yeah,
spoiling,
so
without giving too much away, of course.
well, it is a simple story, and you know, it is, so I'll go to the back cover. So what's Diwali about? And you can kind of see Parwinder again did such an amazing job adding lots of details into each picture so you can really see them. So you see here, Archie's like sitting at the end of the table. She's twisting her napkin. Uh, you know, Nora, Paisley, Virgil, and Seema, her other friend, are all like kind of looking at the food. Just you can see that it's very dark. So there's no power. They're sitting around this camping lantern. And these are good. They're Archie's friends for a reason. They're kind, considerate kids who are really just curious and they want to know more. And Archie's just wondering what to share, how to explain everything about Diwali. But as she starts sharing, you know, moments with her family and her home and the food and even her outfit, and telling people about the Ramayana, or the origin story of Diwali, they feel engaged. And then when she sees their joy and excitement towards them, she also gets the sense of relief and the sense of joy at making this connection. So it's really that Archie discovers that there's something amazing about Diwali, something that inspires her actually next year to give out even more invitations to her classmates.
Oh, that's fun. That's a lot of fun. I think it's so neat because I think kids are naturally curious like that and naturally want to learn more about different cultures. So I think it's really cool that you kind of captured that into this book. Did you experience that a lot yourself as a, growing up in Houston?
Oh, thank you. Like, it's funny because one unexpected bit of feedback that I got, from people, from family and friends that I grew up, that I think is very funny, but in like my group chat, I'll just flip to this page, which is Archie and Seema, her friend. And here it says, like, Archie's friend Seema arrives. She goes to a different school, but she and Archie have known each other since they were babies. You look nice, says Seema. She isn't wearing Indian clothes. So I think, like, even within the same community, there's this idea that, people express, these are both excellent outfits to wear to an Indian party. And I was very much somewhat like a Seema growing up, because I liked being very comfortable. So I would have been, like, I'd have the bindi, maybe I'd have a kurti top, maybe I'd have some jeans. And then, but I loved Indian culture. I knew a lot about it. I just didn't like the itchy clothes at the time. But now, and it never quite fit my body, properly. I felt like they were always, my mom would take them to the Indian tailor, but there'd always be like a seam that was like 2 inches wide, like rubbing against my side. And so I think it's just, I think it's been interesting to see, like, I felt even within the community, there were different factions of like, well, how are we Indian enough? Or what does it mean to be American Desi, like, in terms of like, and then when we watch Bollywood movies or speaking, so like, especially like, so for me, we spoke Bengali at home. So my Hindi is not very good, or non-existent, I would say. It's very like Bollywood song oriented Hindi.
Yeah, same.
And so then when we were in the larger Diwali celebration, especially since we're Bengali and like Durga Puja and Kali Puja are such big deals, like, can I write about Diwali? Is Diwali my celebration too? And of course it is. It belongs to all of us. It belongs to everyone.
Yeah. And I think it's cool that we have like different, because we do have a decent amount of Diwali books coming out these days, but I think they're all like covering different aspects of the Diwali experience, where it's like, some people are really into lighting the candles, all of the candles. Some people are really into making rangoli, and some people are just really into the partying. And so it's all of these, like, what we took away from our childhood Diwalis, and then what we're implementing into our celebrations of Diwali growing up with our kids growing up.
That's right. And for me, it's about community and bringing people into the home. And it's about that celebration together, and also appreciating and understanding our roots and where we come from,
Yeah.
And that the celebration looks different than it does in India, where everybody has a holiday and it's a big festival. It's like, it's a party that you make for yourself and in the broader community where you live now. You bring the light of Diwali wherever you've traveled or landed in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for us now, it's here in Montreal.
Yeah. So are you the kind of household that does like Diwali decorations everywhere? And
I would say for every holiday, I'm not a big decorator, but I create like a spot or a corner, and we try to DIY. Like, we have like our Halloween door with like little things. And then for Diwali, it's all about the diyas, or the lights, the little traditional clay oil lamps. But now we're inventive. So like we've made some out of Legos. We have some that are made out of paper. We have electric ones and regular tea light ones. So
Okay,
it's about the
I need you
light.
to send me a picture of this Lego Dia because I am fascinated by this thought and I think I want to make some now.
Yes, I'll put the instructions out. One of my friends, Tyler Silva, he's at Vivid Bricks on Instagram. He designed 3 beautiful dias for Archie Celebrates Diwali. And I'm just behind on all the activities I wanted to do, all the videos I wanted to make, all the things that I wanted to have done before this Diwali. But you know what? Diwali comes around every year. So we'll get it out eventually, but I will definitely, this is the motivation I need to get those instructions online and record and share a little video with you. I bet I can get a little helper to help me.
Yeah, for sure.
So are you a big Lego fan?
I am a big Lego fan. I love Legos. And I also just really, diyas are my favorite part of Diwali, and like lighting all of the diyas. And like, when I was doing it at home, like I was in charge of like arranging all of them outside. And my mom had, like tea light stands as well as like,
so you use real fire. Like
yeah,
these were not electric. These were like
these were real fire.
Real flames. Wow.
Yep, we went tea lights. And so I was in charge of making sure how many would go out on the porch and then where the like little decorative stands would go, and how we would also include like Christmas lights and the marigolds and stuff and confuse all our neighbors as to why we had Christmas lights up at the beginning of November.
Yeah, that's how we went too. And I don't know how often it is. I know a few years ago, my family and I celebrated the Diwaliween. Every few years, Diwali falls on Halloween. So I remember that was also like, why is it Christmas and Halloween at the same time?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's so awesome. Because, like the origin of the name Diwali comes from Deepa Vali, like the line or array of lights. So it really is, you're right, Ishita, it is all about the diyas.
Yeah. So my favorite things were diyas and then food. So
is it food? Okay. So what's your favorite Diwali food?
Mine's a toss up between peda and matcha.
Okay, nice. And is it something that you know how to cook yourself too?
Okay, I technically know how to make peda. Do I ever make them? Absolutely not. I wait for my mom's care package to show up with all the peda in it.
Oh, Indian moms are the best.
Indian moms are the best.
My mom, even, like she whenever she visits, she always cooks extra to put in the freezer and the fridge. And then she'll leave like spices or spice packets optimistically, thinking that maybe if she made them that I'd be able to replicate.
Yeah.
For food. I've tried, and I have some success with instant pot cooking now, I would say, but some of those other stuff. So what are my favorite? Well, I'm a lot like the character Archie's friend Virgil, who's here on the cover. I could literally just eat naan. Like I don't need anything else to go with it. I could just eat plain naan.
Not even garlic naan? Like it's just plain
not even garlic naan. I mean, I could just eat naan, maybe a little brushed with a little bit of ghee or something, but just plain naan.
So fun. What are some other favorite Diwali traditions that you have from growing up or now with your daughter, or even,
Yes. So I have 3 kids, Sonia, Lena, and Arjun. They're 12, 10, and 7. And then, so really a lot of it is like art leading up to it. It's just sharing stories about them, connecting them with their grandparents. And like, we have this beautiful copy of the Ramayana that's illustrated by Sanjay Patel, one of the Disney Pixar animators. So, like reading some of those stories, like preparing the season around Navratri, like Diwali to me just starts around Navratri, like with dancing and just being with friends. It's like a time where I kind of call and check up on people and see how people were doing and what's happening. And then it really centers around that party, like preparing for the party, thinking about the party. My mom usually sends a care package now that we're far with all of the kind of clothes. And so part of it is for my mom, even like before Navratri, just the conversations on the phone, what sizes are they? What colors do you want? What style? So that, you know, she can find the right things. And then we, for the past few years, we've discovered these really long sparklers that are like, you know, I guess the wedding processional sparklers, but they became available 5 years ago. I started noticing them. So it's all about those sparklers and just, you know, like lighting them like one after the other, you know, while outside, while just, you know, dancing around with those sparklers. It feels very like fun. So, and then just a meal, like just eating good Indian food with people.
Mhm. So you mentioned Virgil as one of the classmates, and then there are, of course, lots of other Paisley and a couple of other kids who I can't remember. Are these based off of any particular friends of your kids or friends that you had in general? Or were they just like characters you came up with who shared some characteristics maybe with people?
I think every writer borrows from real life experiences, but they're not none of my friends or none of my children's friends. They're just imaginary characters that are there that each have, you know, their own kind of personality within the picture book to serve like the role of either being an audience, so, you know, like Paisley plays the part of, you know, kind of being skeptical or like worried, you know. Nora is the curious friend who like asks questions. Seema is Archie's other Desi friend who knows her culture and kind of sees Archie's discomfort and helps encourage her and prompt her and helps create a space of inclusion with Archie. And then Virgil just loves everything from the get-go. He loves the non, he forms a connection with the family and shows that joy that is reflected back with Archie. And I'll tell you, there's another character on the cover though, Ishita, that I did not write and that I got to meet when Parwinder submitted the illustrations, and that is Archie's dog. That was a character that you know, he drew in. And that's one of the really amazing things about collaborating on a book like this is that when he sent me his sketches, I kind of got to meet the characters for the first time too.
That is really neat. So tell us a little bit about that process of going back and forth between the script and the illustrations and kind of bringing to life your characters, but also having them fleshed out with his Barwinder's work. Like, how was that process for you in terms of being able to collaborate on that?
Well, I feel really lucky because I had a fantastic team at Charlesbridge, which is the publisher of Archie Celebrates Diwali. I have a fantastic editor, a wonderful art director, just a really fantastic team behind Archie. And they included me, but also did a lot of the thinking, planning, designing. And so I think the first step was somebody takes the text and divides it into these pages. So here's some fun things that I learned, which as a bookseller, you probably know already, but that were surprising to me, is that books have to be published in multiples of 4. So like there have to be a multiple of 4 pages. You can have a 4-page book, an 8-page book, a 16-page book. You can't have a 17-page book. And it's because you fold like the paper in half and then it gets sewn down the middle, like in this binding, which is like very interesting. And so the publisher decided that this was going to be a 32-page book. And so because it was a 32-page book, they had to divide the text so that it would fit on the different pages. And then after the text was laid out on the page, you could kind of start imagining what might be on the page. And so we got to write a few art notes, myself and the art director. And then they found Parwinder and he agreed to illustrate the book. And then it was just left to his imagination, really. Like he works digitally. So it's like he does these sketches. It's all done in Procreate and Photoshop on a tablet, which is like really, really amazing. But he gets all of these layers and details, this play of light in all of the illustrations. And then after the sketches, you know, so much work goes into them, like into making all these details. So after the sketches, everybody at the publishing house sat with it for a while and like looked at all of the details and tried to see if there might be something that worked different or worked better. And then based on his pictures, like different kinds of choices, were made in the layout. And then step by step, like layers of color were done and the cover was designed. And it was a beautiful process just to see all of the steps and all of the people it takes to bring this book out into the world and on your shelves at Interabang and other places. It's really been interesting to learn about and see all of the steps, and how long it took. So I signed the book contract in 2018, December 2018. And then it was originally going to come out in 2020, but there was a pandemic, there were all kinds of work limitations. And in between this one and the other, like Binny's Diwali came out. And then I just thought the editor and I were just like, but you know what? There's room for multiple Christmas books. There's room for multiple Diwali books. And, I love reading all of the Diwali books. I love having them all. And like you said, they all offer like, a slightly different glimpse of the holiday and the celebration. And I just feel so happy to add Archie Celebrates Diwali among all of the other wonderful books that are out there.
So great. So first time author, how are you feeling about finally getting like your book out into the world?
It is strange, surreal, overwhelming, and also fun. I mean, I'm learning a lot. So, I don't know if you can tell, but this is like, I am a deep introvert, but I genuinely love people. And so I recognize the value of presenting myself, putting myself out there, but I feel a little like Archie at the beginning of the book. Like I feel nervous, like what, and especially after the pandemic where I've largely been indoors with my family or like a small circle of 10 people. And now finally entering the world and also being in this like digital space. I told you about like how I was looking for phone cards and, getting DVDs from the grocery store. So like learning these digital spaces, how to be and show up in these digital spaces is very interesting. It's a learning curve, but so far it's been fun. And like, I think that the copy of the book must have been out, like now that Diwali is approaching, it must have reached a lot of like libraries and bookstores and other displays out, because I've started to receive like reader feedback, like drawings from kids and comments from their parents and people reaching out and sharing this book with other people. And, that is just so, it's just so meaningful. So there was the first round where it was family and friends. And then now it's like, for the first time, like a few days ago, like I've heard from people that I've never met in person, and to form these new connections with these other people who also love Diwali or are curious about Diwali. And some people that I've heard that are going to celebrate Diwali for the first time because they learned about it from Archie. And that's just so nice. And getting the chance to meet you and like, form these connections.
Excited about it for sure. So you think you got another book coming at any point? Or are you gonna just kind of go with the flow and see what comes?
I feel very, very lucky. So it's already been announced in Publishers Weekly and it feels really surreal, but I have a Scholastic Branches book series. The first 3 books come out in 2023, which again seems like such a world away. But I feel really lucky because there is a Dallas connection and a UTD connection. The illustrator is the very talented Aaliyah Jalil, and she is going to be illustrating the book series. And I'm just so excited for that to enter the world too. And, like I said earlier, believe it or not, Priya may also have just a little bit of anxiety around how her parties are going. And it's not my intention. I had no idea, but my I was just trying to figure out, like, as I had a few friends over, and I was just like, oh, I've got to figure out Instagram, or, what do we have to do? And, like, how do you post? How do you come up with content? What do people want to see? And then as we were, I had friends like, helping me figure it out. And we're like, what is your personal brand? And my daughter, like, absolutely deadpan said, Mom, you write about people with anxiety who have parties, who love parties. And I was like, it's so true, because Archie Celebrates Diwali begins the journey, and then Priya's Parties makes like a whole book series. But it's more than her shyness or anxiety about parties. There's going to be a lot of fun in there, more about South Asian culture, and also about DIY crafts, another big passion of mine, and about thinking about and caring about the environment and endangered animals. So, like, growing up to beyond loving Diwali and being South Asian and being Texan, I'm a really big geek. And so, like, I loved animal facts, fun animal facts. So it feels really cool to be able to combine all of those things together. And I really hope that by 2023, I will get to be on a plane and come to Interabang Books in person.
Yes, that'll be so much fun. And we can talk about all of the South Asian culture stuff in person and do all of that.
And eat our favorite foods.
Just sit there, eat beta the entire time. It's fun. It's great.
Yeah, it's fun.
So any other final thoughts on your book, Diwali, writing, words of wisdom?
Well, I'd say if you're out there and you're thinking about writing a book, do it. The world needs your story. And then the theme behind this book is have courage, spread light, and find joy. And I really mean it. Like, be brave in putting your story and yourself out there. Spread light. The world always has darkness, and it needs more kindness and courage out there. And then find joy. Look for it in, like, the everyday moments and in the people who are around you that you can connect with and make their and yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you so much for coming and chatting with us this afternoon and taking some time out. Happy Diwali, Sal Mubarak. I know it's a little early technically, but
happy Diwali to you too, Ishita.
Where can people find you if they want to keep up with more on Archie Celebrates Diwali and your upcoming book series? We're on the internet.
We're on the internet. You can follow me on Instagram at Mitali Ruths, or you can find my website, mitaliruths.com. And I'm also on Facebook at Mitali Banerjee Ruths, writer.
Excellent. And of course, you can follow Interabang Books on our website, which is interabangbooks.com. I will drop a link down below to Archie Celebrates Diwali. So please make sure to purchase that book or any other book while you're over there. Help support independent bookstores, help us keep the lights on, keep doing great author conversations and events like this one with Mitali. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at Interabang Books. So thank you again, Mitali. I really enjoyed our conversation this afternoon, and I'm so glad we got the opportunity to do this.
Me too. Thank you so much again, Ishita. You made my very first author interview such a pleasure.
Of course. So see you guys later. We will be back with our next author interview. Bye.